Beijing, this was the big one.
It was.
I'd say huge.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of pictures about it. We'll start with this one because we've got a funny story about
this.
this.
So this was in Newport at the holding camp before, doing a bit of a Zoolander pose, leaning on the bike, and the same photographer, he knew that I had a tattoo, so I've got a tattoo on my shoulder, Olympic rings, and he goes, "Oh, can we just see the Olympic rings tattoo?" I was like, "Well, it's a long sleeve skin suit," and he goes, "Oh, you just unzip it and pull." So I just did what I was asked, and sort of pulled, and then he's like, just look over your shoulder.
It's a proper
and it's just like this sort of like this over the shoulder look. I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? And I sort of snapped it, like, no. Sort of realised, got back to reality. I was like, wait a minute, no, what am I doing?
So talking about that, you mentioned holding camp.
Yes.
After Athens,
yeah.
This was sort of when everything started to turn within British cycling, wasn't it? Where everything
Yes, it was, I'd say probably 2006 was when things really started to ramp up in terms of investment in the technology, looking at the skin suit, the evolution of skin suits from Athens to Beijing was through the roof. So everyone looks at the bikes and focuses on the bars or the frames. It's the skin suits. If you look at your frontal area, about 85% of the frontal area of a track cyclist is the body, not the bike.
It's a big body.
Yeah, well, the bigger you are, the more frontal area, so the more important the skin suit is. So this was a special material. They had it's not that special now compared to what they have, but in those days it was pretty cool. So the blue band on the arm acted, there was just a slight ridge on it, which in theory acted as like a little trip and caused the air to pass around your arms more efficiently, slice through the air and just move a bit quicker. So
surely this as well, when you started to get this equipment, it was like, oh, we are here to really
dominate, because we had a great Worlds leading into it, but that was with all the basic kit on. So I'd won the Worlds, the sprint and the Keirin, in an 80-pound skin suit and a casco helmet, really basic stuff, normal handlebars. So all this kit was waiting to be added to where I was. So I was confident that I can beat everybody with the standard kit. Whereas all the other nations, they would bring their kit in. As soon as they got it, they would bring it in immediately. Yeah. So they would have this kind of gradual improvement, whereas we kept it the same and then brought it in, bang, when it counted. And even if, 100% there was an improvement because of the kit, but even if it wasn't that much, psychologically, turning up on that day, it's like train heavy, race light, it's that mentality. So yeah, team sprint on the first day, we beat the French for the first time ever, Olympic record, world record, gold medal, then the Keirin the next day, which I won it by about 20 metres, it was mad. It was one of those finals where it just went perfectly. And
did you feel on fire when you were there? Not on fire, but just like...
It felt invincible, and I never had that attitude of I'm unbeatable. Even when you're at your absolute best, I never thought I'm unbeatable. I always knew if you've got to get it right, otherwise you will be beatable. But yeah, when you really opened the taps, when you made that big move, there was no doubt in my mind that no one was going to come past me. Yeah. It was just the feeling. You probably had it once in my career that week when you felt like you could beat anybody. So the Keirin was great, and then the final challenge was beating this chap here, Jason Kenny, in the sprint. And
I was going to say
that was so difficult.
I was going to say, because you are good friends, aren't you, with Jason? And obviously going into that final against him, you'd have trained together, you know each other's secrets. Jason will have watched you growing up as well, which was ultimately to his advantage, knowing what he can do against you. Talk us through it, because it's obviously sprinting against your friend, but you are ever the gentleman.
Yeah, not on the track though. As soon as you cross the black line, like Shane always used to say, when you could be pals in the track centre, as soon as you cross that black line and step on the track, it doesn't matter who you're against. Yeah. It's you want to win, and it was this switch in your head that it was business when you stepped on the track. And we had some great battles in training actually over the years. But behind closed doors, nobody watching it. Some of the best races we ever had were with no one around. But
did you ever argue?
No, we never. There was one incident in a nationals when he was his first year at nationals, and we drew each other in the quarters, and he chopped me down going into turn one, and I wasn't happy about that. And this young junior upstart, but very quickly got past that, and we never had any issues. We always raced hard, but kept it on the track. And we were sharing an apartment at the Olympics in the village, and we knew once I qualified first, he was second, so we knew that if we won our respective races, we'd meet in the final. And that morning before the Olympic final, it was just like one race away from being a triple Olympic champion, or 4 golds, but triple in one race.
I mean, it still gives me goosebumps now when you start to talk about it.
But the hardest thing was, genuinely, although he was like 21 or 22, and I was 32, he had more sprint experience than I did, because I'd only changed from the kilo to the sprint and the keirin that 2 years before.
Oh, wow.
So I'd training for the kilo, and then he dropped the kilo from the Olympic program, and I had to make that shift to the 2 sprint events.
Yeah.
So I was still relatively new to the tactics and the technical side of it. And for the final, because we'd both made it into the final, the coaches said, right, we're leaving you to it. We've got a gold and a silver for GB. We don't want to show any favoritism. So we're going to leave you to it. So imagine the biggest race of your life, where you're about to hopefully win 3 golds in 1 games, and they're told, you just work it out. You work out how you're going to do this race.
So you sat next to each other at the time,
yeah,
and they told you.
Yeah,
did you both look at each other?
Yeah, they sort of, they shook our hands and said, well done, we've got a gold and a silver. Go and fight it out. So yeah, Jason knew he had a better acceleration than me. So in the first race, he just hit it hard from about lap and a half out, and it was a really big acceleration, and I was holding him all the way down the back straight, and then just started to peg him back around 100 meters to go, and then got him by about that much in the line.
And that was the first one?
That was the first one, and the second was similar, but I was ready for it, and crossed the line, hands off the bars, or one hand off the bars, celebrating before I hit the line.
Wow.
Showboating, but yeah, that was a big moment.
And obviously after that, you got your parents here, you got Sarah here as well, your wife.
There's a sequence of pictures that Phil O'Connor took in the keirin, and he didn't take any pictures of the race. It was my wife, it was my sister, my mum and dad, and there's I think it's about 18 pictures in a row, like a whole sequence of them over the space of about 15 seconds. And he framed it and he sent it to me, and I've got this beauty, and it's hung in the bathroom downstairs, and it's just them sitting there going, oh God, as the bike's winding up, and then the race starts, and then they're on their feet, and then they're jumping up and down, and then there's a celebration.
What's it like having them there then? Because obviously they've grown up supporting you, your dad especially, your parents, riding on Edinburgh track when you were younger.
That's it, yeah.
Having them there, their son, on the world's biggest stage, already Olympic champion, silver Olympic champion 8 years later, coming into this knowing fine well you are the dominant favourite. Did you feel more weight?
I felt expectation, but as far as my family is concerned, it was always unconditional support. So I know some riders had complicated issues with their parents, and they were riding for their parents, and they felt pressure because of them. I was the total opposite. It was always the feeling of they were there to support me, and if I didn't win, they were there to console me and to sort of commiserate. And if I won, they were there to celebrate. But I was never racing for them. They were sort of with me, if you know what I mean. So, but it's exciting to know the fun they were having. They were having parties every night. So it's like, you only discover it the last night. You go and see them in the last night, and they go, oh yeah, we've been out here, there, and aunties and uncles and cousins, and so yeah, it's great to see them celebrating. That shot of my dad with a flag above his head, I think he's pretty happy. So yeah.
I mean, that one, and your mum there.
Oh, sobbing.
Sobbing away.
Yeah, that was a big old hug there from my dad, because it started out riding BMXs at my local track in Edinburgh, and then we started driving all around the country, going to races down the south coast of England. And he would never have known that was going to lead to that moment, but.
It is. I think ultimately, then your parents, anyone that's done sport with them, my parents have done it with me, but you never realise when you're a kid.
No.
You never realise how far you go, and even we're both dads now, and sometimes, as we're all guilty of, where you sort of go, we've got that kids club to do, and it's 2 hours away, and you're okay, let's do it.
It's a big commitment, isn't it?
It's a massive commitment, but I think for parents, seeing the kids happy, this is on the highest of levels, and
you don't start out thinking your child's going to become an Olympic champion. You do it because they've shown an interest in this, and you want them to get opportunities and experience as many things as possible, and find their niche, find their passion that they love. And whether it's bikes or football or running or drama or art or music, whatever it is, you want to give them the chance to experience it. So I was very lucky that I found my passion, and I mean, I got to do it.
You were quite good at it.
Well, but imagine age 10 or whatever, being told that you're going to end up making a living out of riding a bike. I mean, it was crazy. And we're still doing it now. We're still talking about it. We're still at bike bonkers events, and to be able to do something that you absolutely love, that was never on the agenda from my careers teacher at school, put it that way.
I want you to talk to me about this photo here, because
yes.
You were telling me earlier how, can it be surfaced now?
Oh, of course, yeah, it was in my autobiography.
Okay,
so
perfect. It's out.
So this is a picture of me, I think it was just outside the Oakley house. So Oakley always have a venue. And then we did a little photo shoot the day after the sprint, and some of the local traditionally dressed women there to sort of pose for the pictures. And a couple of days before that, or the week before, it was about, I think, 48 hours before the team sprint. Jamie Staff, myself, I don't know if Jason Kenny was there. I think he might have been. We had a day off, and it was like, should we go to the Oakley house and see if we can get some pair of glasses, get a bit of swag. And in the days before Google Maps and actually knowing what you're doing, or Uber or whatever, we got a coach to where we thought it was near, and then we got completely lost, and we ended up walking.
Did you have an Olympic? Oh yeah, you had 3. Sorry, obviously.
By that point, but we walked for nearly 2 hours trying to find the Oakley house. Bearing in mind, a cyclist mantra is, don't stand if you can sit, don't sit if you can lie down.
Yeah,
we never, as sprinters, we never walked anywhere, and 2 hours was like, oh my! And Jamie was just like, we never don't tell Shane, don't tell Dave, don't tell anyone of this. This goes to the grave with us, because if we lose the team sprint, this is going to be a factor. And thankfully, we never had to worry about that. We won the gold, but God, it was
stressful.
It's hard to explain the ache you get from standing on your feet when you're not used to it. If you're on your feet all day, that it's a different ache to actually riding your bike. Your back,
everything
lower
goes,
back,
you suddenly start to feel like a very
old man. And it was like
man.
30 odd degrees, and we're like, this is just the worst thing ever. But
brilliant, though.
But it worked out in the end.